In the heart of a quiet forest, as the sun began its slow dip below the horizon, a magical sight unfolded. Tiny fireflies, like scattered stars, started to glow amidst the tall trees. Their soft, ethereal light painted dancing shadows on the forest floor, creating an enchanting ambiance. Among them was a little firefly named Luma, whose glow was brighter than most. Yet as the daylight faded and the forest grew darker, she trembled with fear. For Luma was afraid of the dark. While the other fireflies twirled and shimmered in the twilight, she hid behind the protective cover of leaves, her brilliant light flickering anxiously. Every evening, as dusk settled over the forest, Luma would try to join the others, her heart filled with a longing to dance in the night sky. But the deeper the shadows grew, the more frightened she became. The vast darkness of the night seemed to loom over her, threatening to swallow her whole. With a panicked flutter of her wings, she would rush back to the safety of the leaves, her dream of joining the others crushed once again. Night after night, Luma watched from afar as the other fireflies chased each other in the open areas, their laughter echoing through the trees. She yearned to share in their joy, but fear kept her wings folded, her light hidden. One night, as the full moon hung like a silver disk in the inky sky, Luma looked up with a sigh. "Oh, how I wish I could be brave like the moon," she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "She doesn't fear the dark. She lights up the night." A single tear rolled down her cheek, leaving a sparkling trail in the dust. "What if I could shine brightly like the moon, chase away the dark?" she wondered, her tiny heart filled with a mix of longing and despair. As the days passed, Luma continued to watch the other fireflies from her hiding place, her spirit gradually growing weaker. She started to feel hopeless, believing that she was destined to live her life in fear and isolation. Then one night, the skies grew heavy with a foreboding darkness. Storm clouds rolled in, blotting out the stars and turning the forest into an eerie, shadowy realm. The wind picked up, whipping through the trees and sending shivers down the spines of the forest dwellers. The rain began, lashing against the leaves and pounding on the forest floor. It was the kind of storm that not even the bravest of creatures wanted to venture out into. That night, as the storm raged on, the forest animals huddled together, seeking comfort in numbers. The rabbits trembled, burying their faces in each other's fur. The deer stood motionless, their eyes wide with fear. Even the birds, normally so full of song, were silent, huddling together in their nests. The forest, usually alive with the symphony of the night, was plunged into an unsettling quiet, broken only by the sound of the relentless rain. Inside her leafy shelter, Luma watched the storm unfold, her heart pounding in her chest. As the rain intensified, she peeked out from under a leaf. Her tiny glow flickered in the gloom, a small flame in the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, a loud crash of thunder shook the forest, causing Luma to jump. Looking out, she saw the other fireflies, their lights extinguished, their usual playfulness replaced by fear. At that moment, the forest fell silent. The wind seemed to hold its breath, and even the rain momentarily paused. Above, a large tree swayed dangerously, its branches reaching out like a giant hand. Suddenly, there was a loud crack, followed by the heavy thud of a branch hitting the ground. The sound echoed through the stillness, breaking the fragile quiet. Startled by the noise, Luma flew out from under her leaf, her tiny form dwarfed by the immense darkness of the night. For a moment she hovered, her light trembling. Then, seeing the frightened faces of the forest creatures, something inside her sparked. The sight of their fear gave her a sudden surge of determination. With a deep breath, Luma took off into the night. Her light, though initially shaky, started to grow steadier. As she flew, her glow illuminated the worried faces around her. The owl, his feathers ruffled by the wind, stared at her in surprise. The squirrels, perched on a branch, chattered nervously, and the rabbits, huddled together, raised their heads, their eyes wide with wonder. The wise old tortoise, who had seen many seasons come and go, looked up at Luma with a glimmer of hope in his ancient eyes. "If only we had a star to guide us through this darkness," he whispered, his voice hoarse but filled with longing. Hearing the tortoise's words, Luma's heart skipped a beat. Could she be that guiding star? The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Fear threatened to engulf her, but she pushed on, her light growing brighter with each flap of her wings. The forest creatures, sensing Luma's courage, started to stir. The rabbits, their fear momentarily forgotten, hopped closer, their noses twitching. The deer, their eyes shining with newfound hope, started to move forward. And the birds, chirping softly, fluttered around Luma, as if thanking her for bringing light into their lives. Together they ventured forth, guided by Luma's unwavering glow. The journey was not easy. They had to twist and turn to avoid the gnarled roots that lay like traps in their path. They crossed gushing streams, their water overflowing their banks, and went around fallen branches that blocked their way. All the while, Luma led the way, her light casting dancing shadows on the forest floor. There were moments when the darkness threatened to overwhelm her, when the wind almost blew her out, and the rain tried to snuff out her flame. But the forest creatures cheered her on, their voices echoing through the trees. "Shine, Luma, shine," they cried. "You are our guiding light." Hearing their words, Luma drew strength from their belief in her. She knew that if she faltered, not only would she let herself down, but she would also extinguish the last ember of hope for the creatures who depended on her. So she pressed on, her glow brightening with every beat of her wings, pushing back the darkness little by little, revealing the beauty of the forest in its wildest state. After what felt like hours, the storm began to ease. The rain slowed to a gentle patter, the wind sighed, and the clouds in the sky slowly parted. Through a break in the clouds, a sliver of moonlight peeked through, bathing the forest floor in a soft, ethereal glow. Luma, sensing the change, guided the animals to a nearby meadow. There, away from the fury of the storm, they found shelter. The meadow, usually a place of joy and laughter, was now dark and dripping. But with Luma leading the way, it didn't seem so scary anymore. As they reached the center of the meadow, the clouds above finally parted, revealing the full moon in all its glory. The moonlight washed over the landscape, chasing away the shadows and revealing the glistening dewdrops on the blades of grass and the wet, eager faces of the forest creatures. The owl, his eyes shining with gratitude, bowed his head. "A tiny firefly who once feared the dark has become its light," he whispered, his voice filled with awe. The other fireflies, who had been watching from a distance, swooped down around Luma, their lights twinkling with admiration rather than mockery. "Luma, you were amazing," they exclaimed, their voices filled with respect. "You saved us." Luma, her light steady and strong, smiled, a genuine smile that reached her glowing eyes. She was no longer afraid. She had faced her fear and emerged not only as a hero, but as a source of light for those who had once laughed at her. From that day on, whenever storms came to the forest, a tiny firefly named Luma, who had once trembled at the sight of darkness, became its light, guiding the lost and comforting the scared with her unwavering glow. And so, in the heart of the forest, the tale of Luma, the brave firefly, was passed down through generations, reminding each new creature that even the smallest light can chase away the deepest darkness.